76ers. 10, 9, 8, 76ers.
What's going on, everyone? This is UK 76ers. My name is Ben Glassford, and the Philadelphia 76ers have beaten the Toronto Raptors by 100 points to 93. Now, it wasn't by any means a classic performance, nor a vintage performance, or even a good performance, I guess, really, when you properly analyse and take a deep dive into this game. But the one main takeaway is that Joel Embiid is carrying this team. He played fantastically. Look, MVP standard. 2 seasons ago, Joel Embiid, 18-19 season, Joel Embiid. It was just fantastic from start to finish on both ends of the court. He was just fantastic. But there are a few issues that presented itself again, and these same issues did feature in the Cleveland Cavaliers game. And look, we're going to have a lot of teething problems when we just start a new season with a new coach, with a new roster even. I mean, of course, we've got some familiar faces still, but we've had a lot of chopping and changes, and we're trying to buy into a completely different system, and one which we haven't ever really flirted with beforehand under Brett Brown. But let's just get straight into it. Before we do start looking into this game, I wanted to just focus in on what Danny Green said before the game even started, just a couple of days before. He said that Ben Simmons needs to get aggressive and shoot and expand his game. Look, I am paraphrasing, but the crux of the quote is he needs to get aggressive, shoot, and expand his game. And I saw a lot of people saying, oh, well, Danny Green can't be saying this when he's bricking threes or all this nonsense. But it's just, well, hang on a bit. Danny Green's past his prime. He's played under the best coach ever, arguably, in Greg Popovich. He's played with the best player ever, arguably, in LeBron James. And then played with people like Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. Just elite players and elite coaches, and he's won a title at 3 different teams now. The guy knows what he's on about. He knows what it takes to win titles. He knows what it takes to get the best out of players. You can clown on him all you want and say, oh, but he's bricking threes. He's done what he needs to do in his career. He's had 3 titles. He's reached a level which not many people have reached in terms of the amount of accolades he's achieved. So, you can just disregard whatever he says and say, oh, but he can't hit his threes, or he's not what he used to be. Or you could take it on board and say, well, hang on a bit. This is a very experienced basketball player that knows what he's on about. Perhaps we should listen to what he's saying instead of just disregarding it and throwing it to the wayside. Anyway, just a thought, because I think he made a very good point, and we all know what Ben needs to do. But we also need to appreciate what he can do very well. Because I think it's swiftly becoming, almost inadvertently, a Ben Simmons hating, channel. And it really isn't. I really like the guy. He just frustrates us. We all know he can frustrate you as much as he can wow you, isn't it? It's just, we all know what he needs to do. Let's put it that way. We all know what's required of him, and this game exemplified why we need him to make the necessary changes, the ones that Danny Green listed. But anyway, we'll just jump straight in. We'll go from the first quarter. Defensive flimsiness. Thankfully, this wasn't a feature that lasted the whole game, else we would have lost this game handsomely. But it's just the transition defense, especially. We just caught napping, and the Raptors got whatever looks they wanted, like how the Cavs did the game before. The Raptors got whatever looks they wanted, pretty good on the perimeter. Sometimes you can afford to you're happy to let teams shoot a 3. But when it was evident from the offset, the Raptors were going to be shooting at a ridiculous clip. I want to say they were shooting around just before, well, in the first half, certainly, they were shooting about 40% from 3. And when they hit that sort of form, that's when you've got to start getting a bit more intense and be like, okay, we just can't let them shoot regardless. But they were getting all the looks they wanted. Anunoby had a good time from behind the arc, as did Siakam. Obviously, Lowry did. Ironically, Van Vliet didn't have the best, but the thing is, they're all just good 3-point shooters. The crux of it is they are good 3-point shooters, and therefore you can't just let them have wide open looks. And we let them have wide open looks. We didn't contest them. It was just like, we got into a wide open position. We're like, okay, they've done us here. Let's just hopefully they miss. And they didn't miss. And the Raptors defense was fantastic in that first quarter. Look, Ala Abdenabi and Mark Zumoff were attributing, they love Kyle Lowry, and I get it, Nova kid, Philly kid, but we don't like Kyle Lowry. I really appreciate his game, but when they were just loving everything he was doing, and look, he was doing well defensively, but you don't want that. Just stop praising Kyle Lowry, please, I beg. Anyway, it's a whole different tangent. But anyway, the defense was sloppy on our part, but the offense was equally, it just wasn't ticking and it's stagnant. And this is an issue I pointed out before. To get the looks that the Raptors were getting, when it was easy to contrast the two. You look at how the Raptors got their looks. It's penetrating, moving defenders. It's moving the ball quickly. And when you move the penetration, someone's got to come over, and then space is created, and then you flip it out over there, and then they've got a shot. We don't do that. It was, a high pick and roll, not very quick one. Normally, that's how it starts. High pick and roll, move it around the perimeter, try and get it in the low post to Joel Embiid. He then gets double teamed, and you just got to hope for the best that he either gets a pass away, gets a foul, or hits his shot. And look, Joel Embiid, like I said, he had a fantastic game, and often the low post to Embiid move was the best move, but you can't just do the same thing over and over again. But anyway, even in that first quarter, we just weren't at the races. But ironically enough, the one player who did seem to be putting a good shift was Tobias Harris, and this was a breath of fresh air. We know we all want Tobias Harris to do well. I mean, we all were very critical of him because naturally you always compare him to the contract he's on, and if he's on a max contract, you expect him to perform as a max contract player. It doesn't always work like that, but you naturally just end up doing that. You end up comparing him to the contract, and this is one of the games you looked at him and you're like, yeah, this is a max contract player. I mean, is he going to get 26 points and 11 boards a game? Probably not, but he can get 20, 21, maybe 22 points a game, 8, 9 boards a game, decent efficiency. That's entirely conceivable. And when he plays like that, when he stops overcomplicating his game, where when he gets the ball and it's open, he takes the shot. Where he gets the ball, he finds his spot and he takes the shot, passes it on. Where he doesn't do all these jab steps and let the shot clock tick away until all of a sudden, oh God, I need to get a shot away or throw a ball away or what. He just simplified his game, and a simplified game for Tobias Harris is a better game for Tobias Harris. And this is prime example of that. 40% from three, and you just felt confident in everything he was doing. And often we're not really confident in what he does. And he just looked on the ball, and we're just hoping this could be more of the same going forward. Yeah, Tobias opened quite well. So 9 of the Phillies' first 11 points came from him. I believe there's a couple threes in there. But no, he did fantastically well throughout the game. We'll touch upon his late game showings as well, because he was fantastic in that fourth quarter on both ends. Look, we expected to be good on the offensive end, but the defensive end, he did one play stands out. I think you guys know which one I'm talking about, and we'll get to that a bit later. But obviously, with Furkan Korkmaz being injured, he's out for about 2 to 3 weeks. This gives Matisse Thybulle a good opportunity to show his worth. Look, he didn't get any points this game, but he only had 2 field goal attempts. And I don't think he's helped by the fact that we don't seem to be able to create open looks. And this is something which I think acted as a detriment to Danny Green and indeed Seth Curry. But with Matisse, he needs all the help he can get with when he takes his three. He's not like Seth, who can just shoot, and even if he's guarded it might even just go in. Matisse just needs wide open looks. We know what he can do defensive end. He was fantastic on the defensive end. In fact, I would still have him over Furkan if Furkan was still in the rotation, simply because when Furkan doesn't hit his shots, he's a defensive black hole. When Matisse doesn't hit his shots, well, at least he can defend. And also, it's in our better interest to have Matisse develop as a player, because if Matisse does get a good 3-point shoot, or at least an average, a respectable 3-point shot, then that's just a fantastic 3-and-D wing you've got there on a really good contract. So it may be worth persisting with him a bit more. I'm not the highest on Furkan Korkmaz, but, Matisse Thybulle getting his shot is far more important to this team than Furkan Korkmaz just finding rhythm, I guess. But anyway, first quarter ended 28-17 to the Raptors. Poor from us. We were 23% from the field and 20% from three, and that was largely, there are 2 key factors for that, and that was the poor offense from us, stagnant, and also just fantastic Raptors defense, which is what Nick Nurse has done on this team since he came into the franchise. He's just been fantastic. He gets them so well drilled. The fact that he's got someone like Fred VanVleet, 6 foot, and not the best defender ever. He's got him in, and he doesn't get exposed. We saw how JJ Redick could get exposed. Fred VanVleet looks like a bigger black hole than Redick, but VanVleet is well safeguarded by this team. so that his defensive frailties aren't shown regularly. Nick Nurse does a fantastic job with that, and that's why he's one of the best coaches in the league. But anyway, move on to the second quarter, and this is when we picked it up a bit. And it is almost as if this Sixers defense is a switch. It goes from being very poor in the first quarter to fantastic in the second quarter. But the thing is, it's still we mounted a comeback. We mounted a comeback to the point where we were, I want to say, level or within 2 points at the very least, with 45 seconds left on the clock. And for somehow in that 45 seconds, the Raps go on an 8-0 run. And it's the lapses in concentration, it's the lack of communication on transition defense, on when we're rotating. It's just no one seems to communicate. The shot clock, like no one's saying you've got X amount of time left, or counting them in, or being intense with their calls. It just seems we go through the motions, then it's like, we turn the ball over. Oh, he's wide open, or he's going to score. This team, it's beggars belief. Like I said, it goes from one of the best looking defenses to the worst in a matter of seconds, and it will make this little trip between the two a hell of a lot of times throughout this game. But the comeback, helped. At least it made us realize, despite the late run the Raptors went on, it made us realize, look, we can get into this game. We can mount a comeback. We can really go for it. And even at halftime, I was speaking to Sixers Bobby. Shout out Sixers Bobby. We just still fancied us to win this game. I don't know why. Perhaps it was just blind loyalty to the team you support, but we did fancy us, and obviously it turned out that was a correct prediction. But we did fantastically well, only to really let ourselves down, which is just the most Sixers-y thing ever. Anyway, the second half starts, quarter three, 56-48 at the half, and Embiid goes down injured, and there was a collective holding of breath in Philadelphia, and indeed in my gaff. And it was holding his hamstring, and hamstring injuries can be nasty. I know he's had a few issues with his knee, so I guess it was great that it wasn't his knee, but you still want him down in the first place. He goes down injured, goes down towards the locker room to get that assessed, and thankfully he does come back later, but it was still such a worrying time. Dwight Howard comes in, and Dwight Howard, he didn't get any points, but he had a nice few blocks, nice few plays. But the rim protection that he didn't do against Cleveland, he did against Toronto, which at least he's redeeming himself somewhat, because he didn't help himself at all in Cleveland. But still, the Toronto Raptors were getting wide open threes, and it was from it's basic offense. It's if you move, like I said, if you move the ball, if you penetrate, the space opens up and wide open threes emerge. And they said Anunoby camped out in the corner, or Siakam camped out in the corner, or any of those 3-point shooters. They all shoot very well, and they were just like, okay, pass it on to you. You have all the time in the world. You drop it through 3 points. And it always felt as if when you just got in a bit of touching distance, when we just got a run together, they would then just put 2 or 3 threes together pretty easily. I mean, they didn't seem to work too hard for it. And then you're back to square one. But we managed to rally. Like I said, Embiid comes back. I think that this huge momentum swing, morale wise, we go on, I want to say, an 11-0 run. And at the half, at the end of the third quarter, it's 76-76. And look, we can say that obviously as a team we did improve, but it's just Embiid, isn't it? It's just he just carries this team, as I said at the start. And Tobias had a great game. Tobias had a really good game, and this is it definitely is the best game he's had all season, and you really hope he can do it again. But what I really want from all the team, is a collective responsibility. Look, your stars win you the games and they win you titles, etc. But it's a collective responsibility. And when I see Embiid, if I'm a player and I see Embiid come back from injury with the injury, history, it must have been so easy for him to say, like, look, I'm going to sit out because I know the history I have with injuries, and that would be understandable. It would be annoying, but it would be understandable. If I'm Ben Simmons, or if I'm Tobias, or I'm Steph Curry, or if I'm Danny Green, whoever on that team, and I see Embiid come back when he probably shouldn't. Like, we don't know the extent of the injury, but let's say he probably shouldn't. And he comes back and he's carrying this team. He's putting the team on his back when he's risking injury. You got to look at yourself and be like, well, am I doing my bit to help this team get over the line? And look, Ben Simmons, I hate to get back on the guy. He finished on 11, 13, and 7. That's a pretty tidy stat line. That's not bad at all. 3 of 11 from the field. And you could say, oh, another day that, that 3 of 11 becomes, I don't know, 6 of 11 or 7-11, and, it's a much healthier scoreline for him. But the reason he's missing these shots is because he's not doing what Danny Green says in getting aggressive, going to the line. He avoids contact. The shots he put up, there's no real, he doesn't do it with any authority. He doesn't go into the lane and be like, I'm going to score and I don't care who's in front of me. He just sort of just tries to worm his way around players and not do his utmost to ensure that the ball goes through the hoop. And that's a real shame because he can do that. We've touched on it before. I've said it on, I want to say all my videos now. He can go to the line. He can go to the hoop like he's Giannis, like he's LeBron, and he doesn't. And is it because he's scared of going to the free throw line? Like he got 62% from the free throw line, but you got to just do it. It's as simple as that. You got to just be aggressive and do what you can to win this team games. And look, defensively, he's fantastic. A brilliant sequence on Siakam in the late. But I just don't think he does it on the offense. I think he's too happy to just stand idly by and be a bit of a passenger. And so he doesn't want to leave his comfort zone. And someone's got to put their arm around him and say, it's not because you can't do it, it's because you think you can't do it. He's got the ability, he's got the talent to do it. Look, we don't know how good his 3-point shot is because we don't see it regularly enough. But his form isn't awful. Not like Michael Kidd Gilchrist, where it's all over here, or what Lonzo's used to be. And even look what Lonzo's done since. You can sort it out if you just try. I'm not sure if he's scared, if it's a confidence thing. We'll never know. But all I know is that until then, he can still score at a high rate if he sorts two things. He gets aggressive when he goes to the hoop. He puts it in there and doesn't float it around or put unconvincing shots up. He really makes sure that ball goes through that hoop and he doesn't care who's in front of him. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is just sorting the free throws. He's probably on, I want to say about 60, 65% this season. Just up it to 70, 75. We'll see a huge difference in how many points he gets. Because how many times have we seen him go to the line and it's miss the first one, score the second, or score the first one, miss the second? It should be 2 and 2 the majority of the time, not 1 and 2. Because you're a professional basketball player at the end of the day. I don't care if you're a rookie. I don't care if you're an all-star, all-NBA. If you're a G Leaguer, you should be hitting your free throws. I'm sorry, that's just my outlook on things. But anyway, he had a great defensive game, and there's far more good than bad with Ben Simmons. It's just he frustrates you, don't he? Also, I still don't think you trade him, but I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get bogged down in that again. So we come to the fourth quarter. The referees, man. The referees, this was one of the worst referees for both teams as well. I felt both teams were done dirty by these refs. The one that comes to mind with me is Shake Milton goes to the hoop. Kyle Lowry goes into Shake Milton to block or just contest. Nothing given, apparently went straight up. That was what really frustrated a lot of people, and Embiid getting a technical just out of showing this frustration. And then the other one was actually for the Raptors. They got a lot of niggly ones. The Raptors got a lot of niggly fouls, and I perhaps felt they were being a bit hard done by. I definitely think the referees were trying to compensate because I think they realised in hindsight, yeah, we probably got that one wrong. So they're trying to compensate for the fact that they got that wrong for the Sixers, which bodes well for us. But you just want good refereeing. You don't want biased refereeing. You want good refereeing, and we didn't get that yesterday. But yeah, so we come to that defensive play we're talking about Tobias, and at the end of the second quarter, there was a time where he could have easily. Tobias is 6'8", Van Vliet 6 foot. Tobias could have easily blocked a Van Vliet shot right at the end of the second quarter, and he just sort of let him go past. And a similar, almost exactly the same situation happened. Van Vliet was running the court. It was Tobias Harris, only one back. And he goes up strong against Van Vliet. He doesn't block it, but he contests it with such force and such aggression that Van Vliet can go nowhere near the hoop. Stop comes, we got the other and we score. And it was just fantastic. It was such a momentum changer. And that's just what you want from Tobias. It's just like, we know he's not going to be like the same level as Embiid as a rim protector or the same level as Simmons as a perimeter defender. But we just want that aggression because sometimes he just seems He just doesn't have it. He goes up kind of softly, both on the offensive and defensive end, and this is exactly what you want. And it was just a really good game from him. I cannot stress how good he was last night, and you just hope it continues throughout. Because if anyone's going to unlock the Tobias Harris potential, it's going to be Doc Rivers. But anyway, we finish. Embiid just carried us over the line. Like I said, from the free throw line, he had 16 free throw attempts. Dropped 14 of them, which is for a 7-footer. That is just goes under the radar too much. That's just incredible. He did fantastically well. Maxey played. We ended up finishing 100 points, 93, as I said. Good win. Tyrese Maxey didn't get any points, but he had a few promising signs. Didn't get any points. Still hasn't hit 3, but you just got to give him time. He's a young kid. We've still seen so much from the guy, so we can cut him some slack. Yeah, the bench wasn't too helpful. The rotations, I think, were a bit better. I had a bit of an issue with how we did the 2K rotations. There was none of that. Well, not that I can recall. It wasn't so damaging at the very least. But we got over the line, and it's the Orlando Magic next, who are only one of the 2 unbeaten teams left in the NBA, which is a bit surprising. Well, it's definitely very surprising, but they're going to be a hard team to beat. They always are. They're decent defensively. Look, they haven't got Jonathan Isaac, but Markel Fultz want to prove a point. Michael Carter-Williams want to prove a point. Vucevic want to prove a point. A lot of old Sixers on that team. Fournier and Terrence Ross are the type of guys that will go off against us if we don't halt them early. But a fantastic win against the Raptors. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of issues, but there's a win's a win. If you win ugly, you're doing something right. This team still needs to gel. It still needs to bond. It still needs to learn Doc's system. It was a short turnaround from the last season, and we'll get there, hopefully. But thank you very much for all that, guys. I'll speak to you after the Magic game on 31st. I'll speak to you in the new year. Thank you very much. Have a happy new year, and we'll see you again soon.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.